Tonight, Arsenal play Atletico Madrid in the league phase of the Champions League. A game that I think a lot of people will see as like all-out defense versus all-out defense, but it's certainly the stats say it won't be because this season Atletico have actually been more impressive on the attacking front than the defending front. Of course, scored five against Real Madrid, scored five against Eintracht Frankfurt in their last Champions League game. How confident are you going into this one? Are you expecting like a typical game against Atletico Madrid under Simeone or something a little bit different?
I don't know. I was talking about this earlier on today. You never quite know what you're going to get from Atletico because obviously they're known as this, really almost horrible team to watch at time, and they'll spoil the party and spoil a game. But then, I mean, just go back to the game at Anfield earlier in the season in the Champions League. 3-2 thriller coming back from 2-0 down to get to 2-2. And Liverpool obviously edged it right at the end with the last minute winner. So I don't think it's going to be the kind of game that many seem to be expecting it to be. I think it probably will be quite open, to be honest. So I don't know. I don't think it's going to be that dour defensive two teams cancel each other out game. I'm expecting quite an exciting game today. I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, it is a really intriguing one, like you say, because you look at the top end of the Atletico pitch, of course, they've still got Antoine Griezmann. Julian Alvarez has been in really good form. Interestingly, never scored against Arsenal during his time at Man City, but you'd expect he would be the danger man tonight. Of course, at the other end, you've got Jan Oblak, one of the best keepers for the last decade or so, timeless in between the sticks. Are you more concerned about the prospect of Alvarez giving Arsenal's defence a really hard time, or maybe a Jan Oblak masterclass in goal?
Well, with memories still fresh of 2018 of Atletico's last visit to the Emirates, and Jan Oblak still is gives me nightmares at times. That I'm intrigued to see Alvarez. Obviously, a player who's been heavily linked to Arsenal, to be fair, in the last sort of year or so as well, certainly since the summer. We all saw him at Manchester City, kind of seeing him in the almost in the shadows of other strikers who were there at the time, but was always seen as a decent player, a good player. But he's really taken his game up a level since his move to Atletico. So I'm intrigued to see him come back and see what he can do. But he's coming up against a hell of a defense. Whatever defense we see tonight, even if they're changing, he's coming up against hell of a defense. So it'll be a big challenge for him. So I think I'm more concerned about Arsenal breaking this team down because, again, Fulham, it did take a set piece goal to beat Fulham at the weekend. And at the very top level in Champions League football, you need more than just a set piece threat. So I think I'd probably be more concerned about how Arsenal are going to get through this Atletico team. What's Victor Gyökeres going to do? Is he going to be able to break this goal scoring drought that he's on? I think those are probably the bigger concerns I have right now about rather than how a team's going to hurt Arsenal, because I'm so assured when I look back at the defence and the players who are there and the goalkeeper that Arsenal have that they're going to be able to compete and perform against any strike force that they come up against.
Absolutely so, yeah. And you mentioned Gyökeres there. So looking at team news, of course, we expect him to start. There are no fresh concerns for Arsenal. Arteta's confirmed that Pierre Hincapié is back for this one. Be a surprise to see him start, I think. But there are, of course, lots of options for change that we've spoken about so much this season. Maybe out wide. I mean, I look at maybe the likes of Lewis Skelly, Martinelli, maybe even Ben White, because Timber took that whack against Fulham. Are those three or any others could you see coming in for this one?
I can. I'm not sure he'll do both fullbacks. I think he should. If it was me, I would be resting both fullbacks for this one, and giving minutes to Lewis Skelly and Ben White, providing Ben White's fit enough to, deemed fit enough to start, which I imagine he would be. I would just be resting Calafiori and Timber for this one. I just feel Crystal Palace is a bigger game. I just think the position Arsenal are in the league at the moment, the momentum they've got, the struggles that Liverpool maybe got, they've got a difficult game this weekend. Liverpool, I think City have got a tough looking game this weekend as well. Arsenal need to keep their foot on the pedal in their Premier League. So obviously I want to win tonight's game, but I just feel the Premier League is out the two. That's the one to make sure you've got the fully strongest team available for. So I'd be making a couple of changes and resting Calafiori, resting White. I think Martinelli will come in for Trossard. On the left-hand side of the attack, I'll be intrigued to see what he does in the middle of the park. Will he stick with Rice and Rice and Zubimendi, or will one of those be given the night off, or some of the night off tonight as well. The thing with Arteta, you always expect a lot of people expect him to make wholesale changes for certain games, and then you get to the match, you see the team sheet, and it's so much stronger than most people expect. So I don't think. Whereas I would probably do 4 or 5 changes for this game with Palace in mind. I don't think Arteta would do that. I think sort of 2, 3 maximum is what we'll probably see from him.
Yeah, and it's interesting you should mention the midfield too there, Rice and Zubamendi, because they're actually one booking away from a Champions League ban because they've got booked in both the Athletic Bilbao and Olympiacos games. If they get booked tonight, they'll miss the game against Slavia Prague, but then they'll return for the game against Bayern Munich. Whereas if they got booked against Slavia Prague, they'd miss the game against Bayern Munich. Now, I'm not advocating at all for players to deliberately get yellow carded, but do you think that's like something that might play into Arteta's mind as like a risk worth taking with those two?
Maybe. God, I didn't realize they were on that tightrope already.
Mhm.
What happens if they get like 4 bookings though? Do you miss 2 games or something? I mean, I'd much rather miss Prague than Bayern Munich, put it definitely. I'm not sure Mikel would have that in his mind though when it comes to picking his team. I think he'd trust his players not to get a stupid booking. But yeah, I didn't realize they're on that tightrope so early. Uh, yeah, I just think one of those two, especially Zubimendi, before the international break, they tried to rest him. He had to come on early in that game against West Ham because of Martin Odegaard's injury. Then he went away with Spain, played the games there, came back, was given at least one day off training last week. Then started against Fulham, played the whole game, I think, against Fulham. Actually, I just feel that they've obviously got their eye on him a little bit in terms of needing a bit of a rest. He's played a lot of football, and you could just drop Declan Rice into the 6, bring Marino in, play him alongside an Eza potentially. So it wouldn't shock me if that's the case, but Zubimendi knows Atletico very, very well, and Mikel might want to sort of lean into that knowledge that he's got against this Atletico side.